Non hai la bacchetta magica, Claudio?
No.
Ah.
As I was saying on the last video, I have a very strict rule about magic wands. I forgot the magic wand at home. Thank you for pointing that out. I got my second dose today.
It's true.
Nothing has changed.
I got my first one.
I didn't look like this before the second dose. And my boss said, so on Monday after your second dose, and I said, I'm gonna like women. And she said, I don't think it's strong enough. Hi guys, welcome back. I'm your host, Frida.
And I'm your art historian, Eveline.
And this is a new episode of Frame! If you're new to this, I am a New York-based performing artist and designer.
And I'm a scholar in Renaissance and Baroque art.
Now, we're here to tell you some historical truth, as well as ours. Here on Frame, we like to dig a little deeper into the most famous historical facts and tell you what really happened. If you're new here, we're kind of new too. But this is our second part of our witchcraft chapter. So there's already our first episode and our pilot, and I see YouTubers say that usually a link appears. I haven't edited this yet, so I guess I'm gonna put a link somewhere in here. So feel free to check it out, and if you've already seen it, you're about to find out more. If you like what we're doing, we're gonna keep posting. Feel free to subscribe and hit the like button. But now, bando alle ciance, let's begin. Okay, so we left off talking about the Malleus Maleficarum, the Hammer of the Witches. And we know it was written by this guy named Kramer.
Henry Kramer.
Henry. Actually, my roommate said it's Henry Kramer.
Henry Kramer. Okay.
Kramer. I'm gonna call her after. In the previous episode we know that what we think of witchcraft is not as ancient as we thought. It actually starts during the Renaissance. But then there was this perfect storm that made possible for him to grow his own idea, and then we're gonna find out what happened. So who was Kramer?
So Kramer was a Dominican friar and also a member of the Inquisition. So he was an inquisitor. And the occasion for the writing of the book happened with a very interesting episode, actually, that has as a protagonist a woman. So there was this, while he was in Innsbruck doing his job, poor Kramer came across this very aggressive, self-confident and countercurrent woman called Elena Schoberry. I'm sorry for my terrible German accent. And
we're sorry for all our accents.
And she basically accused him of things and was convincing other people not to attend his sermons. So she pretty much instigated his reaction. So she was called into trial. By the way, she was actually a pretty wealthy woman, the wife of a bourgeois person. So, and she was accused, together with other 13 women, of a number of things, which are kind of interesting. First thing, that she was keeping company with heretics. Second thing is that she caused the death of a woman in order to sleep with her husband. And third accusation was that she actually caused the death of a knight with whom she was sleeping. So she was promiscuous and, again, pretty modern and in charge of her sexuality, something that really Kramer did not like. How
did the confrontation between the two of them happen in the first place? I thought he ran into her at the trial. I didn't know that she did something to him.
No. They were meeting each other in the streets of Innsbruck. Basically.
What if he liked her and she rejected him?
Probably.
What if he liked her?
Because
the core of the whole issue is that we understood that what men fear the most is a strong, sexually independent woman. That's why they try nowadays to control women so hard with aesthetic and everything. I know as an art historian you cannot make this statement for everyone, but I can.
We will never find out the truth. What we do know is that during the trial, he started like making a lot of uncomfortable questions and building a connection between her sexuality and the maleficium, the craft of the witches. According to records, his supporters basically felt very uncomfortable when he started like asking all these details about her sexual life, and they decided eventually to let her go, to dismiss the trial, and he was forced to run out of the city. So basically...
He liked her, I'm telling you.
This is new interpretation by Frida of the episode.
No, it's not Frida's interpretation, it's Fact's interpretation. Eveline and I have been studying this together, so I already know what happened, so I'm gonna let you keep going and then I'm gonna get back at this, because now I'm pretty sure that that's what happened.
Well, after that, it's very easy to imagine what happened. He was fueled by the insults and he wanted to take revenge against Helena and all women like Helena that could actually undermine his authority in a sense. So he went back to Cologne, and that's where he wrote. So the episode happened in 1485, and 2 years after came out the manual of the Malleus Maleficarum, which means hammer of witches, which is basically a manual in order to instruct people on how to identify, persecute witches, basically.
So the Malleus gets published, that's 1487, and that was the most sold book across Europe for 100 years.
Yeah.
Do I remember correctly?
More than 100 years, basically from 15th century until 17th century.
The second most sold after the Bible.
Yes, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, it kind of makes you think that there was a whole business behind it, you know, what people were reading and thinking about.
One of the questions we should ask ourselves is how one book became so popular, because this is actually the end of the 15th century was the century of basically the invention. Well, no, the printmaking was invented before, but that's the century where really printing became a thing. So many books were published at that time. So what decided the success of this one in particular? Something must have decided that. And I think there is a number of reasons, but the main two are the fact, first of all, that Kramer was supported by the papacy. Because before Kramer also started the trial against Helena, he requested Pope Innocent VIII to actually authorize his persecution and hunt of witches, because as we said in the other episode, witches before were not considered to be that threatening, but then suddenly, you know, they became so such a threat to humanity. So the bull helped a lot, and the bull was actually requested by Kramer. Very cleverly.
That's a law coming from the Vatican.
Yeah, sorry, yes, a bull is actually, a law that it's...
Kids!
Now we know why witches hated children, okay?
Yeah, because they were trying to make a documentary about themselves. Okay, so how come this book became so popular?
Well, there are a number of reasons. It was the right timing, first of all. There were the right conditions. First of all was the widespread misogyny that was rampant.
Thank God we're over that.
Yes, sure. The rampant misogyny that never ended. But it was becoming, as we said, which is kind of a contradiction, because we're talking about one of the most illuminated periods of art history and history, but it was becoming pretty strong in the Renaissance. But the other second factor is that witchcraft was recognized as something existent at the high hierarchy of the church.
And before?
Before, no, they were just like, they didn't even believe in magic. I mean, they mentioned magic, but they did not believe that magic could have like such a widespread application and could harm people. And
so, question: the higher levels of the church started to recognize witchcraft as a real threat because of Kramer, or at the same time as Kramer?
Well, because of Kramer, in a sense, because Kramer asked Pope Innocent VIII to issue a bull, which is a law, allowing him to persecute witches with whatever instrument he could. So he gave it like freedom to do whatever he wanted with these women. And he did that the year before he persecuted Eleanor Sugaring. So that means that he believed in witchcraft even before.
Okay.
And then when he published the book, he was very clever to put inside the book the bull, a copy of the letter of the Pope, authorizing him and another man, another inquisitor, to do whatever it took to kill and persecute. Let me explain you something also that I would like to, for once in a lifetime, I would like to defend the church. They were not the only one to persecute witches. Actually, in Germany, definitely the Dominicans was the order that was more involved in inquisition and interrogations. But then most of the trials were actually carried on by the civic law, so the city officials. So it's a combination. The craziness was widespread and did not come necessarily only from the church, but was embraced by everybody. That's why I said that even the success of the book is because there was a high authority, but also on the general level of the public, there was a widespread misogyny and fear and a number of issues.
You were talking about the fact that you were surprised when you found out that it was in Latin, so not everybody.
One of the questions I asked myself is like how this book was so much sold, where very few people could actually read it, because only a minority of the society was actually capable of understanding Latin. So, and I find out that the book was not translated until much, much later. So one of the possibilities is that the content of the book was made available through sermons, pamphlets, and especially prints. So images play a very major role in having the image of witches circulated. As we saw last week, or in the last episode.
Yeah, that's the best way is to look at images together.
The Dürer also knew the book, and when he created his prints, he was inspired by the book. So artists, there is a lot of connection between, let's say, the folklore coming from the little towns, that it's inspired the book, that nurtures the book, and vice versa, the artists, but also the artists have access to the book. It's a lot of combination of things, but some kind of news and materials are able to spread because there is interest. That's the thing, even despite the limitation imposed by language.
Okay, so I changed hairstyle because I was kind of tired of swallowing hair. And I will always say that the best part of having long hair is being able to take it off at the end of the day. Okay, so let's talk about the book. And because you said it's really interesting, the way it was structured, it was almost a journey from identifying a witch to getting rid of it.
Exactly.
Her.
Exactly. Her. Because they're mostly women, as we will see. So the book is actually, I read it front to back, and it's a very boring book. I'm sorry, Kramer.
So keep on watching.
It's boring because Kramer, is using the technique of brainwashing. So he's repeating over and over the same things, so which I don't like when I read a book. But it's mainly divided in 3 sections, and the first one, it's all about trying to explain that witchcraft is a tangible threat. The second part is about, which is the juicy part, which I liked, is the part of where he provides example of actual witches, and he tells all these anecdotes and stories. And the third part is the most important probably for the people at the time, is how to persecute witches and how to organize their torture and trials. And the most terrifying part, in my opinion.
These were your bedtime stories.
Exactly.
Just 2 kids, like she was putting the kids to bed and then, no. Drowning.
The book is kind of like an encyclopedia, in the sense that it's an encyclopedia of misogyny. Because Kramer really brings together all the facts and explanations brought up from ancient times through Jewish tradition, Christian tradition, fathers of the church, to demonstrate that women are horrible human beings. It mixes up a little bit with that these stories, anecdotes that he says they are taken from actual trials, and they're actually basically fake propaganda, because those were kind of like confessions that were taken out of the mouth of women that were tortured for days or weeks. So. And
then eventually they were confessing things.
But that's the proof. That's the proof, Doesn't matter how you got it, it's proof. So let's read the book together now.
People can read the book. Isn't it available today? People can read it.
Yes, they can read it.
So we can
online.
finally start.
You can read it online and we can actually put a link to the book. Ma adesso parliamo di perché le donne sono inferiori. La donna è un animale imperfetto, she always deceive. Poi c'è ovviamente intellectual inferior, poi tutta una serie di...
She always deceives. Maybe they were stupid. Okay, where were we? Let me put the glass down.
Cosa le donne?
What
was wrong about women? Let's ask Kramer. We do everything.
So Eveline, we're lucky enough to have a book that tells us finally what's wrong with women.
Exactly.
So what's wrong with women?
The expert Kramer.
What's wrong with women?
So Kramer explained in a very lucid and encyclopedic way, as I told you before, that women are basically wrong species for a number of reasons. We are intellectually inferior, we are physically inferior, we are morally inferior. Well, intellectually it's easy because at that time women did not get any education, so...
How fascinating, like they would not give access to education to women, and then they would call them stupid.
Exactly. Second thing is the physical, which is kind of interesting because he brings up a theory, which of course is not invented. Kramer does not invent anything. He finds plenty of evidence of misogynist opinions in scriptures and writings of the past anyway. So he says that basically women are imperfect animals because they're born out of a bent rib. So the rib under the breast from which the woman was created by God was not straight, was bent. And so because of that they are actually imperfect. And that's why they also make a lot of mistakes. Last but not least, I left the last, which is the richest explanation that he provides. Women are morally inferior. Morally inferior because women are more credulous, more impressionable. We have slippery tongues, which is something that still people say, only women.
Slippery tongues.
Slippery tongues. And we use all the techniques in our power to seduce, deceive men, and to use our vanities in order to secure sexual intercourse because we have an insatiable lust.
But that's... So, at this part of our video today, we decided that we have to prove people that we are not completely crazy ourselves. So you read the entire book and you selected for us some quotes that you found particularly...
revealing.
Okay. So we're gonna go through them together. You're gonna read them for us and we're gonna comment on them. Okay, first up.
When a woman thinks alone, she thinks evil.
Okay, let's get to the crazy quote.
This is actually taken from Seneca, so it was not invented by him.
Oh.
The second quote is actually an etymology, a fake etymology that is taken from Antoninus of Florence's Summa, which is kind of amusing because he states that basically femina comes from two words, fe and minus, which literally means without faith. Because, and I quote Kramer, since she's ever weaker to hold and preserve the faith. Another one, a woman is beautiful to look upon, contaminating to the touch and deadly to keep. And even better, a woman is more bitter than death, again, because this is natural and destroys only the body. But the sin which arose from women destroys the soul by depriving it of his grace and delivers the body up to the punishment of sin.
I mean, all of this was printed black and white or whatever color they used. And it was
black and white.
Black and white. This is real. Like, it sounds so insane that I'm laughing.
It is.
But it's terrifying to think that was history. That was, I'm pointing at there because her notes are over there. That was printed and people believe that.
Unfortunately, yes. And Kramer used all this book to prove something very important. He did something that it's historically very important. He basically transformed witchcraft into a female phenomenon. There were some men that were persecuted because we have to be correct. So there were also some men who were accused of witchcraft, but they were always induced by women most of the times. And the large majority of people that died because of this sin were actually women. So it was And the major explanation that it provides is this insatiable lust. That will be a very interesting topic that we're going to dig in a little bit later. I think it's important to conclude this section to add another quote from Kramer that really explains in a very concise way, but very clear way, his beliefs about this connection between women and witchcraft. And I read, "And blessed be the highest, who has so far preserved the male sex from so great a crime. For since he was willing to be born and to suffer for us, therefore he has granted to men the privilege." So basically saying that men are dismissed from witchcraft.
So basically, Kramer was the one that transformed the witchcraft heresy into a female sin.
Yeah, basically that's correct. And he also added, which is very important, another observation that witchcraft even before existed and women were involved, but they were involved against their will. So the devil was infesting women against their will, but now women took the matter in their own hands. So they become protagonists. And I think what you said at the beginning about the sexual independence, it was threatening the most of people like Kramer. The fact that women were gaining power and visibility in the Renaissance was not fine.
On this beautiful note, we're gonna end our second part of the witchcraft chapter. We have a third and final part, hopefully, coming up. We haven't taped it yet.
We will explore more in depth how you become a witch if you're interested. And also, according to Kramer, of course, and also we'll learn a little bit more about the iconography. We saw not that many images in this episode because we wanted to create more like an historical context, and now we're going to look at images and explain to you all the juicy details about the images.
So part 3 is coming up. If you liked our episode, feel free to hit the like button, feel free to subscribe, we'll be very happy. And also we appreciate feedback a lot. So if you have and start discussions. So if you have anything to say, please sound off below. And for part 3, just stay tuned.
Also, if you have any topic of interest you would like to be discussed, just let us know.
Yeah, we have plenty. There's a lot coming up. Eveline has a never-ending
I'm a volcano
of ideas. So I think if you guys want to know more about something, please let us know. Eveline will be more than happy to accommodate that. We're taping this on the go. So we won't tape the whole thing and then post it. We're taping episode on episode. So we're influenced by what's going on in the world, whatever happens. So we really appreciate feedback and comments of any kind.
Thank you so much.